Why would they want to deceive us, though? What would be the purpose of that?
Power, control.
Well, how are they gaining power by deceiving us?
No, retaining power. More, meaning if you've built up a civilization, especially since Copernicus, that is, you build a civilization on science. Look, science has been the trendy religion for 500 years. They have been beating all the other 5 religions over the head with textbooks for that long. And then all of a sudden, you're going to come along and say, oh yeah, by the way, you might be wrong about the biggest thing. Because remember, up until NASA went up, in 1958, I'm sorry, NASA was formed in 1958, but up until the Apollo missions, we didn't get up high enough to actually see what this really looked like. So until you look, what do you really know? And all of a sudden you're going to tell people this isn't it? That undermines the scientific pillars. And then you're going to...
But I mean, to speak to that at least, I mean, I would agree there are some people who will be manipulated that way, but you look throughout Christian history and there are people who are willing to die. Yes. For what they say, and to find that there are no Christians that work in the space program, and you'll find that the space program was replete with Christians, that there are none of them that are willing to stand up.
You're going to be.
That's hard to. That is just really hard to buy.
I know, and trust me when I say I wish, I wish people had more conviction to be the whistleblowers. But who are you going to go to? Who are you going to go to? You're going to go to the media? You're going to go to the New York Times? You're going to go to CNN? You're going to go to Fox?
I guess where I'm going with this is, or what I would, I see that you could have a conspiracy dictated by force and that there are some people who are going to kowtow to the power.
Sure.
But when you look at what Christianity does and has done throughout history, there have been far more onerous powers with far more detrimental consequences. I'm pretty sure none of the astronauts would have lost their life for speaking out. Or possibly, but even if they would.
High treason.
Even if they would, there are people throughout history that have shown themselves willing to do that because of what Christ requires. So the fact that there are none of those in the space program is just incredulous.
I am not saying that there aren't some of those people. Of course, there's some fantastic Christians out there, of course. But there are layers. Look, they've had 60 years to put this thing in place as far as, put the safeguards in place. Monitor phone calls, monitor emails. And of course, they've got leverage on everybody. I mean, look, I'm lucky. I didn't get married or have kids. So many people. I mean, all you have to do is find your pressure points and then squeeze. Your spouse, your kids, your relatives, your legacy, they can find a way to shut you up. Neil Armstrong was a perfect example. When he finally went on stage with Bill Clinton and said, Will, you've got so much more to do with this cryptic message if you can remove one of truth's protective layers. No one had any idea what he was talking about. And that was in the late 90s, I think, or early 2000s.
So did God build this?
In my mind, yes, God did build this.
And He built it so that we wouldn't see it, wouldn't understand it.
Not right away, but eventually, yes.
When are we supposed to understand it?
Now. As we finally reached a technological level which could be detected. Not seriously, think of all the things that had to be put in place before all of a sudden we figured this out. Amazing HD long distance photography, high-speed internet, smartphones, the social media. People can compare notes on a lot of things. Without that, nothing would happen, which is why literally up until 2015, I hadn't even looked at it. I could not see the forest for the trees.
So what do you do with the science bases that are on the South Pole?
The military science bases?
No, they're not military.
My God, come on, man.
No, I work with people who do high-energy gamma ray astronomy, or high-energy astronomy there.
Everything is authorized by the governments down there. And by that I mean the Antarctic Treaty, which was put in place in 1959, says no private corporation ever, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much clout you have, can set up shop there, ever. For any reason. In fact, it's not even up for debate until 2041.
So the South Pole Neutrino Observatory
that's fine.
Measures, so that's on the South Pole.
Well, it's on Antarctica. How about that?
So again, this is where I struggle with.
There's scientists down there.
I work with scientists, and I know scientists are always about how can I discover something that nobody knows.
Sure.
So these scientists that are very bright Nobel caliber scientists are knowingly telling
No, they don't know. They don't know. If they're down there on a base, you got to remember, the edge of this, the Antarctic coastline, however long it takes to get to the barrier, because this isn't to scale, obviously, because remember, Admiral Byrd flying his Navy planes for 30 years couldn't frickin' find it. Most of their stuff is close to the coastline, or what you would call the South Pole.
South Pole's hundreds of miles inland.
Yeah, that's not that far. Not by comparison. I mean, they could have done that in planes in the freaking 40s.
Would the military prevent the scientists from knowing this? Are you saying?
Oh yeah, if a scientist decided, if they asked, said, hey, can I take a plane and just start heading out that way? Yeah, they would eventually stop.
You don't trust the military either?
Well, it's not that I don't trust them, but come on, the military lies from time to time.
But
I've
not
heard.
that much lying, right?
Well, come on. Look at any major American war we've ever had. There's been an ulterior motive with just about every one. Look, we live in a world of deception. You would at least agree to that.
I agree that there are people who can deceive, but because some of what you're talking about, I'm actually building an experiment right now where we're going to fly a balloon around the Antarctic continent.
Cool.
So, in your view and my view, that's a very different journey.
Yes, it is. It would be extremely long.
It would be extremely long.
Right.
Roughly what time scale are you talking about there?
How fast does it go?
It's whatever the winds go.
I don't know. Even if you did jet stream winds at 110, 120, it would take a long, long, long time. I don't know.
Okay,
but it would take at least 5 times longer, maybe even 10 times longer. Because the Antarctic, according to this, would be the size of Australia, roughly, and the Antarctic on this would be, at least 5 to 10 times longer.
So the fact that we can get a balloon there around in 30 or 40 days.
Have you done it yet?
I work with people who have, and we will do this in a few years. So
love to see it.
Okay.
Love to see the test.
Let me ask this: how does an eclipse work?
So in the globe model, the eclipses, you've got two types of eclipses. One where the more common that most people are familiar with is where the Earth's shadow goes onto the moon. So you got the sun, you got the Earth, you've got the moon, and the shadow of the Earth is roughly the same size as the moon, a little bit larger, but. So the light from the sun will be, or the light from the sun will be shadowed by the Earth, and you'll get a shadow on the moon. You can also have a solar eclipse where the Earth and the moon and the sun are here, and then the sun, the light is blocked by the moon, and there's a small region on the Earth where the sunlight cannot hit. In fact, I got to see that last year up in Oregon, or I guess it was 2017 in Oregon.
Where
it was
were
a
you?
pretty spectacular sight.
Where'd you go?
It was over around the Young Life camp up there in Oregon.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Middle
Cool.
Oregon,
I was in Salem. Same time.
Okay, yeah, so it's a very similar place. So
Do you agree with
fantastic. If you can ever go see a total solar eclipse, find some way to do it. It is phenomenal.
Yeah, don't.
So do you agree with him as far as how an eclipse works? Do you agree with that?
No, and I saw the same.
You don't agree with it? With Dr. Jeff?
No, I don't.
He's a
Can you imagine
doctor.
that? I know.
Well, that means I've studied much. It doesn't mean I'm right necessarily. So.
Why don't you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. Only because it can't be possible, of course, in something like this, because we're talking about a sun that can't be hundreds of thousands of miles wide and a moon that can't be 2,000 miles wide. I'm saying that the sun and the moon, and it was gorgeous. I mean, it was. And any of you guys know, I mean, if you caught the 95%, no, don't even.
Being there,
you've got to be
during
there.
totality
Be
is
there
very
for the
different than
blackout
around
zone.
it, yeah.
It's gorgeous. But that would be, being that it's gorgeous, it's also just, you just black out part of the sun. It's easy enough. No different. It's no different. In fact, when I was watching it, it reminded me of how we look at the moon. We see, a quarter moon and a crescent moon and a full moon. But we always, whenever we refer to the sun, it's always a sun. There's no such thing as a quarter sun and a half sun until it gets the eclipse. But it's so bright you can't see it anyway. And then all of a sudden you see it, and it's like, oh wow. And the same mechanism for the moon is used for the sun.
Amazing. My question though, when they go to the moon and coming back,
right?
They show that the Earth is round, and they talk about how nice it is and what's going on.
Mm.
They've never shown a flat Earth.
No, they haven't. Amazing.
But wouldn't they show that at some point coming back?
Well, you're making an assumption that they were on the moon in the first place.
Oh yeah, you don't believe they?
Oh,
even
good
went to the moon.
Lord, no. The Apollo, and by that I mean the Apollo footage from Apollo 8 all the way through Apollo 17. Has dated badly. It has aged in the film world really, really badly. There's a lot of inconsistencies. I could show you so many images. I just point out all these things that were wrong.
Are you a scientist?
I am not a scientist.
But he is.
He is a scientist.
But who told you what you believe is true if you're not a scientist?
Oh, so if you wear a white coat, you're automatically right. You get that stamp of approval. Neil deGrasse Tyson said that, He said, science is right whether you believe in it or not. I thought that was pretty arrogant. Not saying you're arrogant, but
No,
I thought
well,
it was.
He called
okay.
you
Truth.
arrogant.
I would modify that. Science is a way of discerning the truth about how the world works. Truth is true whether you believe it in or not.
But that's not what he said.
Well,
He was referring.
Neil deGrasse Tyson and I come from a very different worldview, although we both appreciate science a lot.
But where he was going was that, and I think science has taken liberties. Again, no offense to you. I'm sure you're a wonderful pillar that you can't gaze upon directly. But science has taken liberties, and that is, you want to tell me what the boiling temperature of water is at sea level? Great, fantastic. You want to tell me what the core of the Earth looks like when the deepest hole ever drilled is only 8 miles? No, you don't get to do that. And I don't care if you talk about seismic radar or whatever, because we've been seeing the cross section of the Earth, which supposedly is 4,000 miles to the center, and we always see the same thing, the red and the orange and the yellow and the white bands, right? All going over the center. And that has been there forever, but the old textbooks used to say in small print at the bottom, we don't really actually know what's down there, we're just making an educated guess, which I think is fair, but eventually that text was removed and then it became gospel, not to mix
Well, but there's a difference there because when we're first trying to investigate something, there's lots of ideas we don't know, but the more we study, the more the data does point to certain things.
Point, but science hates putting a question mark in a book. They would never release a book with a cross-section of the Earth with just a giant question mark inside. They hate that. It's like, no, we are the authority. We've got the coats. We're going to put our stamp. This is what we think it is.
No, that's, again, I've worked with enough scientists that it's not we're the authority, you've got to trust us. Part of what's beautiful about science is that you can go out and replicate the experience. Now, obviously, the bigger the experiment, the harder it is to replicate.
Right.
But here's one I would love that I think we could do. I know you've looked at how can you measure this, how can you test this.
Right.
And let's go back to the moon landing.
Right.
If the moon landing is correct as it's described,
Yes.
then there's a buggy on the moon.
Oh boy.
There's retroreflectors on the moon. We ought to be able to take a laser.
Oh, no. You don't get to pull out that myth. Mythbusters already did it. It's like fire the reflector, fire the laser.
Why don't we do that?
Because Mythbusters already did it. We don't believe, we believe that anybody that's shooting the reflector, look, the amount of photons that would come back from that thing, even if you could hit it, would be negligible at best. And you're leaning towards, like, we're already expecting the photons to come back, therefore it's the laser reflector. It's there. And I'm saying, no. There's way too many other things. Even if you could go down the laser reflector line, there's way too many things about the moon that don't make sense. Like, for example, why did Apollo 8 through Apollo 16 go there and back and nobody took shots of the Earth? And there was no blue marble shot until Apollo 17, until the last second on the way back. Or the Van Allen radiation belt question, which I love, and that is, I'll ask you, are the Van Allen radiation belts deadly? Yes or no, in your opinion?
Deadly in what sense?
Deadly, like people will die.
To be honest, I just haven't looked at it closely.
All right,
Like,
well,
I know there are radiation belts up there. It's a matter of how much radiation is there.
That's fair. And that is, look, the Apollo missions went round trips multiple times to that thing. Nobody died. Nobody got radiation poisoning. Nobody even got cancer. There's still 5 of these guys walking around today, right? How did they do that with aluminum and plastic shielding? And you say, well, then they're probably not that deadly, right?
No, again, there's... if you're going to say the moon, the retroreflectors are more complicated, even with a little bit of knowledge, it's like, what radiation is dosage and time scale and all that sort of stuff.
Got it.
So, this would be somewhat a pointless debate here because I don't have the details to be able to investigate.
You don't have to in this case because
Let me do this. I need to ask. We ran out of time, so I need to ask some black people questions. And aliens.
Not in that they came from Venus or Jupiter or Mars. I think that, are there things flying around there? Sure, why not?
So are the aliens that are here with us, or are they flying around?
That's a great question.
Oh,
and
good.
that is, I think there's older versions of us. I think that, older civilizations, things that predate us. I don't think we're the first people to rent this apartment by a long shot.
And so are they out here, or are they in there?
Tough call. Some of them may be inside, some may be outside. I don't know. I'm really dying to know.
What do you say?
I would say if God created this earth for us to be here, it's up to him to whether he did it somewhere else or not. So I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's a great scientific and a great theological question, though.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering, when I was going over this last night, I'm wondering, where are the aliens? Where are they, inside here or outside?
Well,
I think there's a lot
from one
inside.
aspect, if there are aliens out there, traveling through space is a really hard thing. Space is really, really big.
But it's
Do you
real.
believe in aliens?
I don't know. Like I said, it depends on whether God created them or not.
But do you believe right now whether God, do you believe there exists?
If you press me, I'd say probably not.
I'm pressing you.
Okay, I would say no.
Oh, okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if God did it, but I'm going to say no, we're the only life in the universe.
And you say?
I'm saying that there's other civilizations, previous civilizations, that there are remnants still lying around. So no, in that the aliens are not from another planet, they're right here with us.
So you're saying the aliens are human beings,
Our ancestors.
who were here before us.
Yeah.
And they managed to get out of this ball?
I don't know. Maybe they did. Honestly, if it was me though, if I was building it, I wouldn't let them out.
You would not let them out?
No, I'd let them go. I'd let them go.
there.
I'd let them go underground.
I wouldn't let them out. So they may be under this earth.
Yeah, maybe. Sure.
So I gotta ask something else. So you believe the aliens, our ancestors,
Yeah.
are maybe under this earth?
Possibly, sure. There's remnants of them all over. Sunken cities off of Japan, sunken cities off of India, Bimini Road, Bosnian pyramids. Take your pick.
And what do you say to that?
I say humanity is very resourceful. We've built lots of things. And the earth changes while we're here.
So Mark, tell me one more time, why would people make up this lie that the earth is round? What would be the purpose if the earth is really flat?
It's
really flat.
It's not that they're making it up. All they're doing is keeping an existing secret, meaning it was built by someone or something. I will call it the divine, and all we did was, when we figured it out in 1960, we just figured it's like, you know what, we're going to keep this thing under wraps until we can figure out a way to give it to the public. And I think we're running into that right now.
How do you respond to that, Jeff?
I guess I would say, as I read Scripture, I find that God reveals Himself in the Scriptures. As we read the Bible, we figure out truth about God. God's also revealed Himself in creation. As we study creation, we see His glory revealed. He tells us to look to the heavens. They reveal His glory. And so I think what we find scientifically about how the world works, that it's a globe, and that really is the most consistent way to see how He's revealed Himself throughout creation.